Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. This is the second and final part of the two-part mini-series on Taiko Workshop Marketing 101. In the first part of the series, I talked about how to get your proposal approved by whoever's looking at your proposal. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to help get people to sign up once your workshops are a go. So get yourself some more popcorn. Here we go. Let me start with a couple of things before we jump into the fun. First of all, like I said on the last video, if you're able to write a proposal with a description for the committee or whoever, and then somehow change it a little bit so the language is directed towards the possible participants, that is ideal. But if that's not an option, if you only get one chance to write a description, then I would aim it at the potential participants, because the people that review your proposals are used to seeing that. And second, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time. As you can see, I have fun graphics that make it even more fun when you do. This video is broken up into 3 sections. We're going to talk about workshop titles, workshop descriptions, and then a separate part for song workshop descriptions, because they deserve a little special treatment. The workshop title is your first opportunity, sometimes your only opportunity, to get somebody's attention. Think about you walking through a row of restaurants and there's people standing in the doorway trying to get your attention, and some people are more effective than others. This is what the workshop title can do for you. There are a lot of different approaches you can take in writing your title. There's not a lot of room, so it doesn't really matter. But one piece of advice that I have is whatever material you are teaching in your workshop, you actually put in your title. For example, if you're teaching Odaiko and you call your workshop Big Bam Boom Noise Fun Workshop, someone looking for Odaiko is not going to see the word Odaiko and may very well pass you by. Other than that, it can be clever, it can be creative, it can be funny, it can be straightforward, doesn't really matter. Now, having said that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention in 1999 at the second North American Taiko Conference, there was a workshop taught by Yoshikazu Fujimoto of Kodo, perhaps one of the most recognizable faces in Taiko back then and maybe even today. He taught a Taiko workshop named, wait for it, Taiko Workshop. Taiko Workshop was the name of the Taiko workshop. Now, that's probably the worst possible title for a Taiko workshop because it says nothing. It is the most generic title, and yet I guarantee you that workshop was full. Probably even had a wait list. So that goes to show you can have all of these rules and all of these pieces of advice, but if you have the name or the recognition or the popularity, sometimes none of those have to apply. So let's get into the real heart of the matter, the workshop description. A well-written workshop description can convince someone to take a workshop on a topic they might not have been interested in beforehand. But it also goes the opposite way. A poorly written workshop description can easily turn someone off and make them not want to take it at all. There are so many ways a person like you could write a workshop description, and I can't tell you what you should write in your workshop description. But what I can do is talk about different types of information that I have found personally useful and I have heard from other people that they really appreciate. And those 3 categories are how you teach, what you teach, and who you teach. And each one of these 3 categories has 2 subcategories each, and we'll dive into those. Under how you teach, we have approach and mood. Approach is your spin or your take on the subject material. You might teach like other people teach, or you might teach differently than other people teach. This is your approach. For an example, let's say you have 2 different people both teaching naname technique workshops. One person decides to focus on the wrist and the snap, and then incorporates the arms, and then incorporates the upper body, and then incorporates the lower body. So you have a building out to a holistic system. The other person decides to mostly focus on the lower body, get a strong and stable stance, and how to generate power from the legs, and even generating fluidity from the ground up. So 2 different people, the same topic, but very different approaches. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most important things you can put in a description, I would give approach a 4. I think it's very important. There are people who are looking for an approach that they are familiar with, they are comfortable with, because they know they learn well in that environment. Yet there are other people who want a different approach. They want a different perspective, and they want to then figure out which truths work best for them. And then we have mood. Mood is the vibe or the energy of a workshop. You can also think of it as the emotional container of a workshop if you want to get fancy. The mood of a workshop is really dictated by the instructor's personality, but it can be shaped further by the needs of the workshop. Let's say you have 2 different people from the same group who have the same lesson plans for a soloing workshop. But one person looks at the list and goes, oh, you know what? All of these drills sound really, really important. I want to get through all of them. So that means this is going to be a fast-paced workshop. We're going to hit the ground running, go, go, go. We're going to have fun, but go, go, go. The other person looks at that list and goes, you know what? I like all of these, but I want to allow time for people to absorb the material. So we're not going to get through the whole list. I want people to be able to have dialogue and talk about what they liked and what they didn't and what resonated and why. So that's 2 different people with the same topic, the same lesson plan even, but 2 very different moods. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give mood a 3, somewhat important. There are people who come to conferences and take workshops specifically learning to be pushed and challenged, to get something they don't get from their regular group or groups. Then you have people who think, you know what, I'm challenged all week long in my job, with my family, whatever. I'm looking for something a little more mellow. I still want to learn, but I don't want to be pushed hard. And so under how, you have approach and mood. Then we get to what you teach. Here, the 2 subcategories are material and goals. Material is literally what you are teaching in the time of your workshop. Things like the mechanics, the drills, the movements, all of those details. And on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to put this at a 1. It's not important. However, the reason I include it in this list is because sometimes a person teaching a workshop has some mechanic or some method that is worth mentioning, that is unique or special enough to put in a workshop description. So then it will be rated much higher. There's also goals. Goals are what a person can do with what you have taught them once the workshop is over. It could be hours after, weeks, months, even years from then. Goals can be stated very specifically, like, after my workshop, you'll be able to play dondoko at 210 beats a minute. Or more vague, like, after my workshop, you'll be able to command stage presence with much more confidence. It doesn't really matter what you say the goal is, as long as people understand that there's a goal. On that scale of 1 to 5, I'm putting goals at the very top. It gets a 5, extremely important. Everybody wants to have fun taking a workshop, but I don't know anyone who only wants to have fun and then that's it. Almost every taiko player I know wants some kind of benefit after taking the workshop, and that's where the goals come in handy. So under what you teach, we have material and goals. And finally, who you teach. Here, the subcategories are suggestions and requirements. Suggestions is an interesting one. In general, if you've ever looked at a Taiko conference workshop catalog or you've taken workshops with other organizations, you very often see beginning, intermediate, and advanced. These are your skill suggestions. A workshop may say you should be this skill category or this skill category. Some will say 2 skill categories, while others say all. We're open to everyone. But here's the problem. Can someone please tell me where a beginning player ends and an intermediate player begins? Like, where is that switch in the middle? What causes that? Also, what's an advanced player? What does that mean? Who's advanced? How? Why? If you ask 10 Taiko players that question, you will get 12 answers. And the thing is, they're all right because there is no agreed upon standard. A while back, there was a workshop where everyone was invited, regardless of your skill level. When you went, you were then asked to self-select. If you think you're a beginner, you're over here. Intermediate, over here. Advanced, over here. So imagine this example. Someone is over here in the advanced group. They've selected themselves advanced because in their mind, they clearly are. They've been in a community group for 10 years or more. They know all the parts to all the pieces. They get to play all the fun solos, and they may even have creative input in the group. They are clearly advanced. Except when you watch them play your advanced material, you can tell right off the bat they are struggling, and it's only going to get worse. In your mind, they are definitely not advanced. But over here in the beginning category, you have someone who's only been playing for 1 year with a semi-professional group. They don't know all the parts to all of the pieces. They don't get to play all the fun solos, and they definitely don't have any creative input. They may even have been sort of told over and over again, like, you have a lot to learn, you are a beginner, keep your ego in check, whatever the group's culture is. So in their mind, they are clearly a beginner. But again, you're watching them do the beginning material, and you can tell this is way too easy for them. You can even see how bored they are. Now, this is just an example of 2 potential people, but imagine this is happening on a bigger scale. Several people in this workshop. Now, you have a couple of choices here. One of them is to just hands off. You let people be where they wanted to be, but you keep watching people either struggle or be bored, not enjoying the workshop, and they may very well even blame you as the instructor for not teaching a good workshop. Or you tell people to move and you tell them where to move to, but you risk embarrassing people in front of others. Like, hey, you're not advanced. You need to go to the beginner level. I would hate to tell someone that. I would hate to be told that. And maybe the beginner person doesn't want to move. Like, no, I'm a beginner. I'm sorry. I need to be here. It's awkward. And now the vibe of the workshop is kind of disrupted and other people feel uncomfortable. There's no really good answer here. I honestly don't know what I would do in that situation. But this is the kind of thing that happens when you have skill levels that just say beginning, intermediate, advanced. And you tell people, hey, my workshop is one of these. Good luck guessing what that means. So a suggested skill level is very, very useful, but it's only a starting point for the conversation. If you can say more, you might want to. From 1 to 5, I say suggestions are a 4. Very important. You want to get people an idea of where the skill range is, and even if you don't say more than that, at least a person has a general idea of what you're looking for. And then we have requirements. If suggestions are a warning sign, requirements are a checkpoint. You do not get to proceed unless you have what is required. Now, there are some people in the Taiko community who are very anti-restriction. They believe if someone wants to sign up for a workshop, they absolutely should be able to. Except there are requirements that most of us, I think all of us, wouldn't blink an eye at. For example, if I'm teaching an Odaiko workshop, the requirement would very likely be you need to bring Odaiko bachi. No one would blink an eye at that. Or if someone was teaching a Hachijo solo workshop, the requirement would probably be you need to know Hachijo as a song. Again, no one would mind that because it doesn't make any sense to take an Odaiko workshop without bachi or to take a song solo workshop without knowing the song. Where the contention is when it's regarding a skill level. If I'm saying, hey, if you want to take my workshop, you have to be good enough to even enter the workshop, some people have issue with that. In my opinion, if that's what you want to say in your workshop description, you absolutely have the right to do so. If your requirement is vague, it's more like a suggestion and you're actually inviting more issues and more trouble than it's worth. But specific requirements involving skill also have an issue. Let's say, for example, a workshop instructor says, this workshop requires people to play donsuku at 100 beats per minute cleanly and consistently. Let's say a workshop instructor in their description states, to take this workshop, please be able to play donsuku at 100 beats per minute cleanly and consistently. Pretty straightforward. But I know there are people out there who will see that and go, okay, well, I can do that mechanically, but what does cleanly mean? And consistently? I think I play it cleanly, but this person seems to really need that. That's important. I don't know. Maybe I can't do it like they want. They talk themselves out of it. So you have people who could do the thing, but talk themselves out of it simply because the thing is stated. That's human nature. So on the scale of 1 to 5, a requirement gets a 5. Extremely important. Again, If you have a certain workshop that requires bachi or a certain knowledge or a certain skill floor, you really, really want people to know so that they don't waste their time taking a workshop that they can't enjoy or you can't teach them. So I've listed 3 categories and 6 subcategories, and really it doesn't matter if you think there are more or less, if you agree with my rating system or have different priorities, it doesn't matter. I want you at least to be thinking about what kinds of information you could put in your workshop description, because then you can make a much more informed workshop description based on what you think is important, based on the people that are reading it from the other side. Ultimately, I think that will bring up the quality of everybody's workshop description. And finally, I want to talk about song workshop descriptions, which I separate from regular workshop descriptions for a few pretty big reasons. A regular workshop might teach you what ingredients are in a dish, or where to find those ingredients, or how to prepare those ingredients, or how to cook those ingredients, or even how to serve the dish once it's cooked. Maybe even 2 of those things. But a song workshop teaches you all of that and sometimes even more. It's a promise to deliver an entire product. Also, if you take a non-song workshop and you only get through 80% of the material, you might still have an amazing time, an amazing workshop. You may still have all the goals you ever wanted and more. But if you only learn 80% of a song, well, that sucks. What are you going to do with 80% of a song? And because these are pretty big differences, song workshop descriptions often have to advertise in a slightly different way. And personally, I feel like a lot of song workshop descriptions have a very unique struggle. In general, there are 2 types of songs taught in workshops, whether it's a conference or a gathering or whatever. There are the famous songs and every other song. Famous songs are those played by a lot of groups, wanted to be played by a lot of groups and individuals. You'll see them often if you go to any sort of taiko performance or especially concerts. Examples of famous songs are Hachijo, Miyake, Yataibayashi, Omiyage. These are songs that are very popular. And it's not to say other songs aren't, but the famous songs don't struggle having people sign up. If you're teaching any one of those songs, you can almost get away with a slightly sassy description like, hey, I'm teaching Miyake. You want to play it. Come take my workshop. Now, that's not going to fly through the proposal committee, but if that somehow appeared, people would still sign up for it because they know they want to take it. Other workshops, there's a huge range. It could be anything. Maybe a group has played a song for a while, but only just now are they offering it up to other groups. Or maybe there's a song that was really newly written, no one else has performed it, and no one else has learned it, but now it's being offered at this event. There are 3 types of people that will sign up for song workshops. One type of person wants to take the song back to their group so their group can play it. Another type of person wants to learn the song so they can play it with others. These tend to be the famous songs because other groups and other events allow people from different groups to play that song often. And the third type of person is pretty rare. It's someone who doesn't really care about the song. They want to learn something about the song, maybe techniques or mechanics the song has, or they want to learn how the instructor teaches, but they don't care so much about the song. They have no intentions of playing it. And while, again, this is rare, there are people like that. I know because I've been one of them and I've met others who do the same. To sign up for a song workshop is to make a commitment. If I sign up for a mechanic workshop or a technique workshop or a movement workshop, I'm going to have fun and I'll learn a little here and a little there that I might apply, maybe a lot, but I don't need to have the whole thing apply to my taiko. With a song workshop, I kind of need the whole thing. Remember, this is a product. I can't take little bits away. It's not going to be useful. So I really need to be convinced to take your song workshop. I'm going to categorize the different type of song workshop descriptions into 4 groups. There are abstract descriptions, dry descriptions, informative descriptions, note the air quotes, and good descriptions. For the first 3, I'm going to talk about fictitious songs with a satirical example of what I mean. And the descriptions are going to be exaggerated to really highlight the flaws and deficiencies of that particular method. Let's start with abstract. Magnificent Magnolias is a song I wrote after I had a dream. I dreamt about a panda watching a bumblebee fly. The panda wanted to fly, so it asked the bumblebee, "Hey, Mr. Bumblebee, would you help me fly?" And the bumblebee said, "Yes, I would be happy to teach you." So the song passages go from the panda being inspired to frustrated to ultimately accepting that while it can't fly, it has special gifts that it should be proud of. And that journey is reflected in the song. So I really hope you come and enjoy Magnificent Magnolias with me. I call this description abstract because it might invoke some beautiful and vivid imagery, but it tells me nothing about your song. I love pandas and bumblebees are awesome, but I don't know what that means for a taiko piece. And if you're asking someone to commit time and or money to your workshop, this is not the way to do it. In fact, it leaves me with more questions than answers. And then we have dry descriptions. Hello, we are so excited to teach you Happy Fun Song. In the Happy Fun Song workshop, you will learn all the mechanics and the movements and the patterns and the techniques you need to play Happy Fun Song with confidence and joy on stage. We are guaranteeing you an exciting experience learning Happy Fun Song, and we cannot wait to teach you Happy Fun Song in our workshop. Please come and enjoy. I call these descriptions dry because if you've ever had a really dry piece of bread or a really dry sandwich, and after a couple of bites, you're just begging for some moisture, some relief, please give me something, give me a reason to continue eating. That's what this is like. Please give me a reason to continue reading your workshop description. I'm not interested in this song at all, and I'm just gonna stop reading. And again, this is a fictitious song with an exaggerated satirical description, but I do see these types of dry descriptions in actual song workshop descriptions. Next up, we have informative workshops, and I put informative in quotes, and you'll see why. We are proud to be teaching song you've never heard of to the taiko community. Our group you've never heard of. Travel to place you've never heard of. To learn song you've never heard of. From person you've never heard of. Back an irrelevant date. Song you've never heard of is inspired by person you've never heard of. Childhood, growing up in place you've never heard of. The people and culture there, and all the things you learn from his taiko group, other group you've never heard of. The movements and patterns in song you've never heard of capture the spirit and energy of the people in place you've never heard of and group you've never heard of. Cannot wait to teach this song to the community. I call this informative because there's a lot of information here, but none of it is relevant to people trying to decide if they want to take this song or not. And I always feel bad when I see this or see a lot of this element in a song workshop description because I know the person writing it loves and really has passion for this piece, but they're just completely missing the point of a song workshop description. So you have abstract, dry, and informative descriptions. They're all missing something. But what is it? What aren't they getting across? Well, just like I mentioned with the workshop information, there's song information that I think is really crucial to get out there in your song workshop description. There's 5 of them this time, and we can go pretty quickly through them. We have instrumentation, parts, energy, difficulty, and characteristics. Instrumentation tells a person what equipment they or their group needs to play your song. If your song has shime, beta, and odaiko, my group doesn't have odaiko, I take your song and I realize, oh, well, I can't teach this to my group unless we play a weird version of it. And you may not like that version. It might be a stunted version. It may not be your vision. So we're both losing out. But if your piece has, say, shime and beta, and my group has shime and beta, I can totally take your piece. That's great. So it can be both a good measuring tool for what people should and shouldn't take if you list the instrumentation. And so on the rating list, this gets a 4, very important. And then we move on to parts. Almost every single taiko piece, with a few exceptions, has at least 2 parts to it, like a front row and a back row. Maybe there's percussion, that's a 3rd part. If I go to your workshop, there's just one of me. If you have 2 parts in your song, I'm learning 50% of your song. Now this is pretty common, and sometimes people will bring a video camera, or they get sheet music from the instructor, or there's some resource made so that people can learn the other parts, but this is not necessarily the norm. A lot of people go to a song workshop, learn a part, and then do they teach it to the group? I'm not seeing a lot of the songs taught at conferences being played by other groups. And I think this is a huge reason why, because people don't know how many parts there are and they learn one of them. Now I'm just talking about 2 parts and 50%. What if your song has 4 or 5 parts? Now I'm learning 20% of your song. Maybe I can learn a couple of different parts because they're not too difficult. 40%, 60%, it's still not enough to teach my group. And so even if I love your song and I take your workshop, I can't teach your song to my group because I don't have all the parts. So by listing the amount of parts in your song, you give people the opportunity to plan better. In my song Commotion that I taught in the 2025 North American Taiko Conference, I stated there are 3 parts to my song. And I had people from different groups send 3 people each to learn each of those parts. And I was so happy I did that because it meant they could teach the entire song. They didn't have to come back. They had everything they needed. So yeah, parts, that's a 5. That's extremely important to list. Next is energy. Kind of like I described earlier with how a person teaches, the energy, the vibe, the mood. There are different groups who have different energies and they're looking for songs that are either very simpatico with what they already do, or maybe a song that's a little different. But if they don't know what energy your song is, they may not sign up. But if it fits what they want, that might attract them even more. So I would give energy a 3, somewhat important. Similar, we have difficulty. Same thing with energy. Some groups are a little more casual. They don't want to play a song that people are going to struggle with. Others are looking for a challenge. So if they have an idea of what the difficulty of your song is, or at least if there are difficult or less difficult parts, that gives them way more information to make more informed decisions. Energy gets a 3, difficulty gets a 3. And finally, characteristics. This is a catch-all. Again, in a sea of song workshops, what makes your song different, interesting, unusual? It doesn't have to be unique necessarily, but if you have a few things that make a pretty interesting picture, this is where you want to state it. I don't know how to give this one a rating. At least a 3, maybe not quite a 5, so let's say 4. Characteristics get a 4. Writing a song description is completely different from writing a song workshop description. If I'm writing a song description for the audience, I write a few lines, people go, oh, that's cool, and they watch the song. Most people won't even remember what the song liner notes were. But a song workshop description is to convince potential participants to sign up for your workshop, to invest the time and the money to buy your product. It's different if you're trying to talk one-on-one or this medium where I'm just kind of talking to you. I can convince people to take my workshop and so could you. But 3 or 4 paragraphs of text, nah, it's not translating. It just isn't. So final piece of advice. If you are writing a song workshop description, write it up, do the best you can, and then show it to someone who doesn't know the song. Show it to someone who's not in your group and ask them for feedback. Maybe a couple of people. And you just don't know if your description is doing your song justice or not. Okay. Between this video and the last video, we're looking at about an hour's worth of information about proposals, submissions, committees, descriptions, songs, and themes and information. There is a ton of stuff here. This video series is not for everyone, and that's fine. I'm not trying to make everyone happy with every video. This series is meant for a few people, and it's going to be online for as long as YouTube is up. I'm hoping those who want this information can really benefit from it. I want people to thrive in the community. If you're focusing on teaching the most amazing workshops, great. It might be something that changes people's lives. But if no one signs up for it, then it doesn't matter. And if the proposal committee doesn't accept it, then it matters even less. So if there's a goal you really want, sometimes you have to start looking back further and further and figure out how to get there. And that's what this series is all about. And I'm sure in this hour of material, there are people that will disagree with things I said. Maybe it's, hey, I don't think that should be a 3, I would give it a 4. Or that information isn't important, this information is important. Or even, you suck. Whatever it is, hopefully not the last one. Whatever it is, I would love to have that conversation and that dialogue. So please make comments in the comment section below. I will reply, people will see it, and I think everyone will benefit from it. Or if you have questions and you don't want to make it public, you can email me at tictactaiko.com. So, until next time, keep on planning and be well.